when I say it the same way.
Welcome to JDC West 2016 Human Resource Case Presentation. Thank you to our judges, Heather Ryan from Federated Cooperative Limited, Cheryl Carver, the Associate VP of Human Resources at the University of Saskatchewan, Grace Bure from the Federated Cooperative Limited, Rutha Paulus and Rutha Tenkoon from Mount Royal University, Marianne Deutscher from K+S Potash Canada, Kavita Britton from Potash Corp. Competitors, you will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following, the judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. The volunteer timekeeper will show time cards at various intervals to indicate the remaining time and will stop any speaker who exceeds this time. No questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking is allowed by the audience at any time. The audience will only be permitted to applaud after the Q&A. The audience is banned from any material that bears the name or symbol of a competing university, and we ask the audience to exit the room following the Q&A. You can begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Cook. Thank you for being with us here today. Welcome any esteemed guests we also have with us today. My name is Eli Mearns. With me, I have Amber and Shelby. And today we are going to be discussing Pareto Engineering. Now, first off, Pareto, you have gone through a transition period. You've acquired 500 new employees. You're going through a change in your culture, and we've identified that some issues have been identified in your organization. With that being said, you are in place in the market right now. You have 5 different departments spread across different continents. You have the ability to grow, and you have the ability to prosper and achieve excellence. You have the connections in place, and we believe that we can help you do so, making a few changes and bringing in a positive culture into your organization. So with that being said, our recommendation that we have is to align the culture of the employees through the use of strategic human resource practices. We have 5 phases in order to do this. The first is that commitment to change, focusing on that and communicating that throughout the organization. Secondly, engagement, increasing the engagement of all employees and helping them improve their performance on the job. Thirdly, talent management, moving people around in the organization in order to find the best fit for the organization. Fourth, total rewards, making a few minor adjustments to the compensation structure in order to benefit the entire organization as a whole, increase that engagement, increase that culture, and bring the organization very tightly knit. And lastly, evaluating this and what we have done so far, and in the future, monitoring it. We want to make sure that any evaluations that we have done and any changes that we have made, we constantly revisit them in order to see if they can be improved, see any faults in them, and constantly improve the organization from within. I will start off with an issue identification and an analysis. I will then pass it off to Amber. She will discuss the decision criteria, the alternatives, and the recommendation that we're going to make. She will then pass it off to Shelby to talk about the implementation and the timeline for this recommendation. She will then pass it back to Amber to discuss some financials that are always involved in any recommendation that is ever made. And lastly, I will wrap things up with risks and mitigations, an evaluation, and wrap things up with a conclusion. As we move forward, we have identified that the primary issue in the organization right now is that there is unrest within the company and has resulted from the integration of the new employees. The secondary issues that accompany this is that there are some conflicting cultures and work styles. We have some unaligned compensation as a result of those new employees coming into the organization. And there is a lack of awareness of some of the dissatisfaction, which we are also going to talk about. So in order to first look at the organization from internal, From an internal perspective, we looked at a congruence model analysis. We identified that your people are very knowledgeable, they are skilled, and they are professional, which is fantastic. The culture you wish to achieve is one that is collaborative, has a large amount of teamwork involved, but right now there's a feeling of unrest, as I mentioned in the issues. The critical tasks of your organization right now, that customer satisfaction, making sure that we don't lose any customers throughout this change process, and we make sure that the customers are always satisfied with the products and services that we provide to them. We want to maintain those contracts throughout our change process and moving forward, and we want to make sure that we constantly give that technical expertise to all our customers. Lastly, the formal structure of the organization right now, because we have combined two different companies, the hierarchy is very meshed. There's different levels of seniority, and there's different levels of knowledge within the organization. With that mix of seniority, there can be a little bit of unrest, as we had mentioned, and there can be some conflict, which can also occur. But the formal structure there is a push for autonomy. The best work is done when employees have control over their work, as we have noticed in your organization and the organization that you have obtained employees with. So the incongruences that we identified was that mix of seniority does not align with the culture and the feeling of customer satisfaction. If there's conflict that takes place as a result of this, the customer satisfaction will go down, the reputation can take a hit, and we wish to improve this. We also noticed that the autonomy does not also line up with the level of customer satisfaction. Right now, it has been identified that some employees are not being notified to us as they are collaborative, and they want teamwork in the organization. And lastly, the customer satisfaction. Right now, the culture has that feeling of collaboration and teamwork, but we can only increase this, make the organization more collaborative with more teamwork, and increase the customer satisfaction. So I will now pass it off to Amber, and she will discuss the decision criteria for our recommendations.
Thank you, Eli. So with every decision comes different decision criteria. So we've outlined 3 different decision criteria in order to ensure that our recommendation is aligning with your company's values. So the first, performance, making sure that our work is up to code, up to safety, and making sure that it's well thought out and well processed. As we're 2 organizations kind of being mixed together, it's a great opportunity to ensure that you have that performance levels that are high. The second, engagement. As Eli had mentioned, culture is a big thing within the organization, and making sure that those individuals are engaged within the company is great. As well as the integrity. As we've seen previously, there was some issues with the previous company having different mistakes done in the company, and so we'd like to use this as an opportunity to have integrity and to step above that and go beyond into an integrity company. So with that, we've come up with 3 different alternatives in order to look at whether what we're recommending is going to suit your company. So the first is to expand the business to continue with the growth. So looking at how can we get more contracts, how can we get more employees and expand from within into outside. The second is keep Pareto and Halcyon as 2 separate teams to ensure that they have those cultures that they need. So that would be assigning different contracts to different teams in order to suit what they best feel that they work in. And the third is to align the culture of the company and in the employees using strategic human resource processes. So looking at the human resource processes and practices in order to create cohesion through culture. So with that, we've determined that expanding the business, while it does look at performance and look at how can we achieve these different contracts, it doesn't necessarily create that integrity and that engagement, as we're not focusing on what can we do to help the employees. We're more so focusing on how can we expand the business. With the second, the separate teams, we've seen that this does align with performance and integrity, as these employees are used to doing those things. However, as a company that's coming together, we want to make sure that all of our employees are on the same page, so it doesn't necessarily engage them within that. As for aligning the culture, we've seen that this does hit on performance, integrity, as well as engagement, as it looks strategically at what can we do to change and how can we make this better. So with that, our recommendation is to align
the cultures of the employees using strategic human resource practices. So let's take a moment, step back, and look at the bigger picture of things. What does this company need? How can we achieve excellence in the long run? And to do that, we need change. We've seen that there's opportunities to look in different directions and see how we can engage employees in certain ways. Change is an opportunity. Change is an opportunity to achieve excellence. But change can also be scary, and change can take time and resources. However, if we use change, we take ourselves from staying in this little box that we've created, and we can step out of that box and look into how can we engage employees. What's the bigger picture of this? How can we use change to our advantage? How can we use change to make connections across the country, across the continents? How can we use change to use our technology and resources to prosper in the long run? And I know what you're probably thinking. Change is hard. It's an easy concept to understand, but how are we going to apply this to the company? How are we going to make this work? And that's what we're here to help you do. We're here to help you achieve that change. Now I'm going to bring Shelby forward to take you through how that change is going to happen.
Thank you, Edward. So Pareto Engineering is known as one of the top firms in North America. So how are we going to maintain this level of excellence? We have outlined a 5-phase implementation plan for you to achieve this. First, we have the commitment to change. Second, we have the engagement, talent management, and total rewards, which is the implementation of the procedures that are going to help support that culture. And finally, we have the evaluation and monitoring. Throughout this process, we're going to be using the Lewin's change model. So this is making sure that we remove the unfreezing and freezing aspects so that we can better move through the changing process and make sure that there are no barriers and nothing that's going to hold us back from achieving this result that we want to get. So first phase is commitment to change. Communication is the most important part of any type of change. It allows you to excel and achieve the final product that you want to achieve. It can also be detrimental to your organization if you don't implement it properly. So we're looking at having a managerial team meeting, followed by the managers delivering the message to the employees throughout the different the countries that you have. And then we have a result of creating buy-in from management. And this is going to help drive the change process throughout the entire implementation. The messaging is going to be focused on reminding employees of the mission and values that we have within the company. So that integrity, that commitment to quality, and creating an importance and reminding the employees that they have value to the company and they have value to the clients that they're serving. They are creating bridges and they have a significant role in manufacturing and creating these impacts. Next, we have engagement. So part of this whole change process and making sure that we can better collaborate these two groups is making sure that we have engagement within the company. The dynamics of the two companies can be very different, so it is important to make sure that we can collaborate and make sure that we can make those ties within the organization. So when considering this, it's important to look at 5 different factors. These include task identity, so do the employees identify with the things that they're doing? Task significance, so do they feel that the work they're doing is important? Task variety, so do they get to do a different variety of jobs? Are they focused on one thing all the time, and do they get bored of doing this? Finally, autonomy and feedback, so having control over the work that they do and making sure that you're getting that feedback from the employees or from your managers per se, so that you can improve your skills and improve your actual work performance. So next is setting expectations. So making sure that the current employees know what the expectations are for them to help onboard these new employees, because they have a role in making sure that these new employees feel valued as well. Next, we have executing the company-wide change survey. So before we go into the implementation of the processes, we want to make sure that we can identify what the issues are better. So because we have only done a change survey for the 500 set of employees, we want to make sure we do it organizationally wide. Next, we have the utilization of the integration team. So we have had this team, but we haven't been fully utilizing to their potential. So we want to make sure that we can use these employees to better suit the full organization and use them to their full potential. Next, we have the planning of the engagement activities. So while we're doing this, we're planning for actual activities that are going to be spent during the work week. So company holiday parties, continuing to expand the mentorship opportunities. So if employees have to move, partnering them with a different employee that's already gone through this process so that they can better understand what the impacts are and how they can understand that somebody's already gone through this, so I can too. And finally, group volunteering time. So getting those different employees together so that they can collaborate and build that connection and build that teamwork aspect so that we can have a better overall culture. Next, we have job design. So as I've mentioned in job significance, task, feedback, the job design is really important in how the organization is set up. So we want to allow for autonomy in the job by creating smaller project teams. So currently the teams are 11 people and we want to move this to 8. So this is a combination of the 4 of the previous and the 11 of the actual company. So we're allowing for more autonomy and a wider range of skills while still executing those contracts. And we're going to change the utilization rate down to 70%. So 70% of the time is going to be spent on billing clients. So we're going to use that extra 5% to actually focus on culture and focus on these activities that I've already outlined. So overall, this is going to create the product of merging the two cultures and create involvement from both employee groups. Next, we have performance management. So once we implement all these things, we need some way to measure it. So performance management is really key. We're going to be using the MBO and BARS methods. And I've outlined some potential factors for the BARS method that will be implemented. So productivity, client impact. So are they able to have an impact on these clients and are we meeting their full needs? Because it has been identified that you haven't been fully meeting their needs in some of these surveys. So we want to refocus on this. Next is the quality of work. So are they able to do their full job to their full potential? And their commitment to learning. So are they able to go to more seminars and different things so that they can maintain that skill level? So now we have total rewards. So the total rewards package has been faltering because there has been inequity in pay between the two employee groups. So we were wanting to level this out. So this will be increase in the employees' pay that is below market level and below the other employees. So the 500 employees that came in had a higher pay range than the actual employees that we've had for many, many years. So we want to level this out and develop a compensation model based on pay grades for different levels of employees and develop a profit sharing method as well as a bonus structure based on the hours billed and performance management. So phase 5 is finally the evaluation and metrics. So we have the engagement survey, as well as feedback from the performance management system, feedback from the surveys that we'll be implementing, as well as the outcomes of the actual changes that we have set out to implement. So next we have performance metrics. So it could be an increase in performance. It could be an increase in the engagement levels that we've seen. As for further considerations, we've looked at a couple different things, such as occupational health and safety, so ensuring that we are meeting those levels of standards so that we can attend to our clients' needs and also maintain our quality and commitment. Looking at work-life balance, so possibility of entering flex time and billing rates to possibly be implementing these increasings so that we can match the market. As for timeline, the first 1 to 3 months is going to be the communication phase and the commitment to change. Phase 2 to 4 is going to be the actual implementation of the new processes. So this will be happening within the first year or so. And then finally, the evaluation and monitoring will be happening ongoing as well as a focus on it at the end of each phase of the changes. And I'll pass it off to Amber for financials.
Thank you, Penelope. So with every implementation comes a cost. And with that, we've looked at the different costs that we've determined. So the first is the profit sharing plan. With more information, we're able to give you a financial number about this. However, we need additional information to provide that. As for the compensation, increased volunteer time, holidays, and holiday parties, we've come up with a total cost of $31 million, and that's approximately 7% of your revenue. So we believe that this is attainable and that we can use this to achieve excellence in the long run. So with that, I'll pass it along to Eli for risks and mitigation.
Thank you, Amber. So in any recommendation, there are risks. We have identified 3. The first one, culture shock. Especially with the ability to move between continents and stuff in the organization, there is a certain level of culture shock that may take place. The probability of this is low, the impact would be medium, and as I mentioned, the movement between countries would be the trigger. In order to mitigate this, we focus on that relationship building, possible movement into mentorships of people that have already gone through this sort of change, as well as focusing on engagement and culture. The second risk would be that the customer focus does not increase by our employees. The probability of this would be low, the impact would be very high. The focus on autonomy is very important in this case. Bringing that autonomy in and giving employees power over their work and guidance over their work will hopefully increase that customer focus. And because of the profit sharing implementation that we had mentioned, their performance and what we get from the organization and profits will be paid back to them. So hopefully that will also drive that customer focus up. Thirdly, negative cultures carry on from Halcyon. This is quite possible, especially in a situation where you have people coming over from a different organization. It's important to incorporate, in this case because it's a large number of employees coming over, their cultures that they have and their norms that are very good, but it's also important to weed out the bad ones, and we want to make sure that we stay away from those if we can. With that being said, we want to, in the internal processes, we want to sustain the integration with the mentorship program and reduce cost of conflict and time by 2%. As far as learning and growth is concerned, we want to increase that engagement by 5% as evaluated in the engagement surveys. We'd like to shift the utilization from 75 to 70% and allow for that training and culture building to take place. In the customer side, we'd like to increase that customer focus, as I had mentioned, and focus on maintaining contracts with growth. But we want to have that loss of no more than 5% of all contracts during this period. And lastly, in the financials, we feel that that revenue can increase by that $105 million that the new employees will add to our organization. In our next steps, we need to make sure that we meet with the board of directors and discuss the proposed changes, meet with the integration team, and execute the plan. Thank you very much for being with us today, and I'd now like to open the floor for any questions.
I'm the money person, I was asking many questions. Demo for Dave. Tell me in terms of your financials, you don't have in there the cost of reducing the utilization from 75% to 70%. So essentially you're going to drop 5% of billable hours, and you haven't included that in your financial. The managerial team cost you haven't included in the financial. And the profit sharing plan, you just have that. You're going to implement it, but if you had a guess on the cost. So I mean, right now, based on what you have, you're saying I'm going to spend about $31.6 million to bring it in. And my revenue from the the acquired 500 employees, that's revenue, not actual like profit, right? So tell me a little bit about how that, how you see that really bringing value to spend it in year 1, for example.
Yeah, so for the financials, there's a lot of information that we'd require in order to get those further numbers. So for example, the number of contracts that we have in order to increase our revenues, the expenses that we have. So once we are able to attain those numbers, then we can give you more of a budget based on the whole surroundings.
Volunteer time and the holiday parties, like you got it for 2,300 employees?
Yeah.
So then the new 500 employees, they don't get to have a party or volunteer time?
We assumed that the 2,300 included the 500 employees.
When you were setting up the compensation, you mentioned you would increase the current company employee salaries to match with the acquired company. Did you ever consider what would be the market rates, whether they had anything, whether there was benchmark amount for the salaries?
Yes, we considered the benchmark rate in the market right now. Unfortunately, we didn't have those numbers, but we felt that it would be more beneficial to the organization not to drop the salaries of the employees that are coming in, because that could bring some dissatisfaction with the situation, but it'd be more beneficial to raise the salaries of the employees that we currently have in order to meet in the middle, and then therefore we can look at the market rate in order to find the best solution to that.
The Halcyon employees are coming from oil and gas. That industry typically pays more than some of the other, sort of segments that we have within the market. And they're doing consulting work in oil and gas, so I mean, to be a consultant, you've got to be better or like have value that you can bring. Have you considered any segmentation on your compensation based on those, really the industries, as opposed to just everybody being the same?
We definitely considered that, and we also set up a different model because our employees actually have more experience than the health sign employees, and the health sign employees are actually billing more hours. So taking a look at an analysis through the skills and the experience level and the different projects they've been previously working on, so that we can use those and market those as well to the clients.
What about on the change? Like, I mean, you've got a whole change management, so tell me a little bit about what you expect from my leadership team throughout the change. Because I mean, I've got 500 employees coming on, I've got the 2,300, some of those maybe are happy, maybe aren't, they don't really know. You said we're gonna survey them, so that's good. But what do you see their leadership having to be through this process?
We just really want the management team to enforce the vision that every employee here is valuable and that we can make a difference. And the work that we're doing is going to have an impact on a lot of different companies, on a lot of different industries. So making sure that the employees feel valued is our biggest mission for the management team to communicate downwards.
So under phase one, you've got the management team meeting and creating buy-in from the management team. How are you going to do that?
Most of it is just showing the value that we can get from making sure that we can integrate these two employees. Without this, there wouldn't really be a point in adding these 500 people. So making sure that we can utilize the new perspective as well as our old perspective and the skills that they bring together to be prosperous, essentially.
We're buying a company because we want that talent in the segment that we haven't really operated in, and operated greatly in oil and gas.
One of the original alternatives that you proposed was around getting more contracts with your clients. And I was really excited about that. I appreciate that you focused on employee integration. Is there a way that you would still be able to interpret that or get behind that with all of team members rather than just focusing on the integration?
There's definitely the opportunity with that. However, first we want to make sure that the HR is on board and the whole employees are on board. And then with that, then we can step back and look at how can we add more contracts and more employees.
All right, that's all the time we have for questions.